What if there's a Machiavellian strategy that makes her forget every other man? And you've been doing the exact opposite. You're doing everything right. You text back quickly. You make time for her. You compliment her. You show up. You're consistent, reliable, kind. You're everything the internet tells you women want. And she forgets you exist the moment someone else walks into the room. Before we go further, think of something specific. Think of the last time you felt that hollow ache in your chest when you realized you're just an option. That moment when you checked your phone at 2 a.m., hoping for her name, knowing she's thinking about someone else. Got it? Hold that feeling. Have you ever wondered why the guy who barely tries gets her obsession while you get her polite distance? Your devotion is making you invisible. The Machiavellian truth is this: attraction is not won through effort. It is generated through emotional scarcity. Every text, every compliment, every moment you show up, it's erasing you from her mind. The more available you are, the less she values your presence. The more effort you pour into her, the more replaceable you become. It's not fair, it's not logical, but it's the brutal architecture of desire, and pretending it doesn't exist won't save you from drowning in it. Have you ever felt the terror of realizing you were never even a real option? That you poured your soul into someone who never saw you as valid, as real, as someone who could actually matter to her life? It's not just being forgotten. It's the horror of discovering you were never real to her in the first place. What if I told you there's a Machiavellian strategy? A way of positioning yourself. It doesn't require you to become an asshole, but it does require you to stop being so afraid of losing her that you lose yourself. What if the reason she can't remember you is because you never made her feel anything she couldn't predict? What if attraction isn't about being good enough, but about being impossible to categorize? What if the most dangerous thing you can do is make her feel safe before you've made her feel alive? This isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding the psychology of power. Machiavelli wrote about political power. But the same principles govern every human dynamic where one person holds leverage and the other doesn't. And right now, you don't have leverage. You have hope. And hope without power is just waiting to be disappointed. Why does the man who doesn't chase become the one she can't stop thinking about? Why does scarcity create obsession, while abundance creates indifference? Why does your kindness feel like weakness to her, even when she says she wants a good man? What if the emptiness you feel, that crushing sense of being forgettable, isn't a sign that you're not enough? What if it's a sign that you've been playing a game you don't understand, following rules that were designed to keep you powerless? There's a reason you keep ending up in the same position. The friend, the backup, the safe option she respects but never desires. And it's darker than you think. It's not about your looks. It's not about your income. It's about the energy you radiate. The energy of someone who needs her validation more than you need your own self-respect. What if I told you that every unanswered text, every time she cancels plans, every moment she seems distant, those aren't failures? What if those are opportunities to reclaim the one thing that makes you unforgettable? Your ability to walk away. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you the Machiavellian strategy that makes her forget every other man. Not because you're pretending to be someone you're not, but because you finally stopped pretending that your worth depends on her attention. Here is the strategy. First, we will expose the lie that is killing your chances. Second, we will uncover the law of desire, the psychological principle that makes her forget every other man. Third, we will master the chaos understanding Virtu and Fortuna and discovering the paradox that frees you. And finally, we will integrate the 3 practices of Machiavellian self-mastery so you can reclaim your power starting today. Here's what you've been taught to believe. Attraction is earned through effort. You think seduction is a race. The man who texts back fastest, who shows up most consistently, who compliments most genuinely, he wins. Wrong. That's the surface assumption. And it's killing your chances before you even start. Let me show you what's really happening beneath the surface. Attraction isn't a logical response to your resume of good behavior. It's an emotional response to intensity and unpredictability. Female desire doesn't ask, who tried hardest? It asks, who made me feel something I can't name? Think about it. When was the last time she texted you first? When was the last time she seemed nervous about losing you? When was the last time you felt like she was chasing, even a little? If the answer is never, it's because you've made yourself too easy to predict. Predictability is the death of desire. It creates safety, yes. Comfort, yes. But it flattens the emotional landscape. There's no tension, no curiosity, no stakes. To understand the reframe, you must first understand the fatal flaw in your logic. This is the lie that is killing your chances. You've been operating under a fatal misconception that kindness equals impact, that effort equals attraction, that if you just give more, she'll finally see your value. But here's the psychological framework you need to understand. Desire grows in distance, not proximity. But here's the part that's going to hurt. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince about the nature of power. He said that it's better to be feared than loved, if you can't be both. Now, I'm not saying you need her to fear you. But what Machiavelli understood is this. Power is not about what you give. It's about what you're willing to withhold. The man who withholds his attention isn't playing a game. He's communicating that his self-respect is more valuable than her validation. The man who gives everything loses leverage. The man who is willing to walk away calmly, peacefully, without anger or resentment, holds all the power. Because he's communicated something she can't ignore. His life has value independent of her presence. Have you ever noticed that the men she obsesses over are the ones who seem least affected by her? Have you ever wondered why she chases the guy who doesn't text back while taking you for granted? Have you ever asked yourself why your availability feels like a burden to her instead of a gift? It's because you've confused love with erasure. You think caring means disappearing, making yourself smaller so she has room to breathe, but she can smell it on you. That desperation, that grasping, it makes her skin crawl even when she can't name why. The reframe is this. Stop trying to win her. Start choosing yourself. Your life must be so complete, so full of purpose and momentum, that her presence is a choice, not a necessity. When she texts you, you don't reply for 3 hours. Not because you're playing hard to get, but because you were genuinely engaged in something that mattered. You've communicated more value than any compliment ever could. When she cancels plans and you respond with, "No problem, enjoy your night," and immediately move forward with your own plans, you've just shown her something rare, a man whose world doesn't revolve around her whim. This is the shift from admirer to anomaly, from suitor to sovereign, from someone trying to enter her life to someone whose life is so magnetic that she wants to enter yours. What are you currently doing that signals you need her more than she needs you? What patterns are you repeating because you're afraid that if you stop, she'll disappear? What would change if you believed, truly believed, that your value doesn't depend on her response? There's a deeper truth here, one that connects to something Machiavelli understood about human nature, something about the psychology of scarcity and abundance. We're going to get there. But first, you need to feel this reframe in your body. That self-respect, it's not just about strategy. It's about refusing to accept the terror of being unreal, of being a ghost in someone's life who pours everything in and gets nothing reflected back. You are not fighting for her attention. You are reclaiming your self-respect. And paradoxically, that self-respect is the only thing that will make you unforgettable. Here's the truth they don't want you to know. The Machiavellian truth beneath all of this. The strategic principle that changes everything. Power in dating, real power, doesn't come from controlling her. It comes from controlling the rhythm of your presence. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine two men, both interested in the same woman. The first man is everywhere. He likes her photos within seconds. He texts good morning and good night. He's always available when she needs someone to talk to. He remembers every detail she mentions. He compliments her constantly. He makes his interest crystal clear. The second man is different. He's warm when he's present, but his presence is unpredictable. Sometimes he replies in minutes, sometimes in hours. He has plans she knows nothing about. He compliments her once, genuinely, and then goes silent. When she texts, he's friendly, but he doesn't bend his schedule to accommodate her. He has a life that she can sense but can't fully see. Which man does she think about when she's alone at night? The second. Every time. Why? Because he's created something the first man never will. Emotional scarcity. Here's the uncomfortable truth about human desire that Machiavelli understood about power. We don't value what's abundant. We value what's rare. We don't obsess over what we have. We obsess over what we might lose. The first man has handed her certainty. She knows he'll always be there. She knows he's not going anywhere. There's no mystery, no tension, no risk. And without risk, there's no reward. Her nervous system isn't activated. She feels safe, but safety without challenge is just boredom in disguise. The second man has created anticipation. Every time his name appears on her phone, it's an event. Every time he pulls back, she wonders why. Every time he doesn't react the way she expects, she has to recalibrate. She can't categorize him. He's not needy, but he's not cold. He's not chasing, but he's not indifferent. He's present, but unreachable. And that paradox? That's the spark. This is the Machiavellian strategy. Not manipulation, strategic positioning. Think about it like this. Imagine you're watching a theater performance. The actor on stage is always under a spotlight. You can see everything he does, every gesture, every expression, every word. You understand him completely. Now imagine another actor who moves between light and shadow. Sometimes you see him clearly. Sometimes he steps back into darkness and you have to lean forward, straining to catch a glimpse. Which performance holds your attention? The one that makes you work for it, the one that creates gaps you need to fill with your imagination. That's what emotional scarcity does. It creates space for her imagination to fill in the gaps. And whatever she imagines will always be more compelling than anything you could tell her directly. But here's where it gets really dark. Have you ever noticed that the moment you stop chasing is the moment she starts reaching out? Have you ever wondered why she seems most interested when you're least available? Have you ever felt that shift in power when you finally stopped caring whether she replied? It's not a coincidence. It's the fundamental law of desire. We move toward what moves away from us. But the Machiavellian man doesn't just understand scarcity. He masters the chaos. Machiavelli wrote about virtue and fortuna, skill and fortune, the interplay between your self-mastery and circumstance in maintaining power. Virtue is your strategic skill, your self-mastery, your ability to control your own emotional state. Fortuna is the chaos of circumstance, the unpredictability of her moods and responses. You can't control Fortuna, but you can master virtue. And when you master yourself, you stop being reactive to her chaos. In chapter 25 of The Prince, Machiavelli compared Fortuna to a violent river that floods everything in its path. But he said, those who prepare in calm times, who build dikes and barriers, can channel that destructive force. You're being flooded by her chaos right now. Her hot and cold, her cancellations, her distance. That's Fortuna. But you can build the dam. That's virtue. Here's the strategic principle. Every message not sent is a demonstration of self-control. Every rushed reply delayed is a reclamation of power. Every boundary set calmly, without anger, is a statement of value. When she cancels plans last minute, you panic. Either you get angry, which communicates that she has power to destabilize you, or you immediately reschedule, which communicates that your time has no value beyond her. The strategic man does neither. He responds, "No problem, enjoy your night." And then he moves on with his life. Maybe he calls a friend. Maybe he goes to the gym. Maybe he works on a project. The point is, his momentum doesn't stop because she pulled back. His life has inertia independent of her. That simple act, that refusal to be destabilized, sends a message louder than words. It says, I choose my self-respect over your validation. And that choice, that's what makes you unforgettable. Think of it like a river and a dam. Most men are like the river, constantly flowing toward her, pouring all their energy in her direction. She becomes the dam that controls the flow. She decides when to open the gates and when to close them. She has all the power. The strategic man reverses this. He becomes the dam. His presence is the resource. His attention is the currency. And she's the one wondering when the gates will open. She's the one trying to figure out how to make him flow toward her again. This isn't about being withholding for the sake of cruelty. It's about recognizing that your energy is valuable, that your time is finite, that your presence is a gift, not a given. When you operate from this frame, everything changes. You're not trying to earn her interest. You're evaluating whether she's earned yours. Can you feel the shift in that? What would it feel like to walk into a conversation with her, knowing, truly knowing, that you're the prize? Not because you're arrogant, but because you've built a life worth protecting. Machiavelli also understood this. People respect what they cannot control. In chapter 17 of The Prince, he wrote that leaders who make themselves too beloved become dependent on the people's whim. The leader who is too predictable, too eager to please, loses respect. The leader who maintains a measured distance, who doesn't reveal all his plans, who acts decisively without needing approval, that's the leader people follow. In dating, it's the same. You've made yourself too beloved, too eager to please. She's lost desire. The man who maintains a measured emotional distance, who doesn't need her approval to act, who chooses himself without apology, that's the man she can't stop thinking about. Here's the deeper layer, the one that connects to why you feel invisible in the first place. You've been taught that love is sacrifice, that devotion means erasing your boundaries, that if you really care, you make her the center of your universe. You've been taught that if you give your soul, she'll finally see you as real. But what if the devastation you feel, the terror of never being a valid option, comes from giving yourself to someone who was never looking for the real you? She doesn't want your soul. She wants the feeling of being desired, and you've confused giving her that feeling with being seen. But that's not love. That's self-abandonment. And she can feel it. On a subconscious level, she senses that you've given up your sovereignty, that you need her to feel whole. And she can smell it on you. That desperation, that grasping. It makes her skin crawl even when she can't name why. Not because she's cruel, but because her nervous system is designed to detect strength. And need is not strength. The man who makes her forget every other man is the man who doesn't need her to complete him. He's already complete. She's an addition, not a solution. And that completeness, that self-sufficiency is the most magnetic force in the world. What parts of yourself have you abandoned to make room for her? What would reclaiming those parts feel like? This is the Machiavellian strategy. Not games, not manipulation, strategic self-respect. And this mastery of chaos leads us to the ultimate truth, the paradox that either frees you or breaks you. Remember what I said at the start, that your devotion is making you invisible? Here's the paradox that changes everything. The only way to keep her is to be willing to lose her. Let that sink in for a moment. The only way to keep her is to be willing to lose her. Not as a tactic, not as a game, but as a fundamental shift in how you relate to desire itself. Let me show you the lie versus the truth. The lie. You spend your entire romantic life operating from scarcity. You meet a woman you're attracted to, and immediately your brain says, "Don't mess this up." Do whatever it takes to keep her interested. Mold yourself into what she wants. Hide the parts of you that might push her away. And in that moment of self-betrayal, you've already lost. The true power comes from not needing her validation. The man who makes her forget every other man isn't the one trying hardest to be memorable. He's the one who's so grounded in his own worth that her opinion of him doesn't shake his foundation. He's not indifferent. He's not cold. But he's free from the need to control her response. Free from the anxiety of whether she's thinking about him. Free from the prison of seeking external proof that he's enough. And that freedom, she can feel it, like heat from a fire. It draws her in because it's so rare, because every other man she meets is performing for her approval. And here's this one man who isn't. He likes her. He enjoys her company. But he doesn't need her to complete him. His life was whole before she arrived, and it will remain whole whether she stays or leaves. And when she feels that freedom, she stops seeing you as an option. She starts seeing you as the exception. Can you sense the power in that stance? This is what Machiavelli meant when he talked about Fortuna. Fortune, fate, circumstance. You cannot control whether she chooses you. That's Fortuna. It's chaos. It's beyond your grasp. But you can control virtue, your skill, your self-mastery, your refusal to abandon yourself for the possibility of her affection. And here's the deeper truth, the one that hurts but heals. If she only wants you when you're chasing, she doesn't want you. She wants the feeling of being chased, and that's not a foundation for anything real. The woman worth having is the woman who's drawn to your presence, not your pursuit, who values your boundaries because she has her own, who respects your self-respect because she recognizes it as strength, not arrogance. But you'll never meet that woman if you're too busy contorting yourself for women who don't value you. Think about this. Every time you compromise your boundaries to keep her interested, you're teaching her that your boundaries don't matter. Every time you drop everything to accommodate her last-minute plans, you're teaching her that your time has no value. Every time you accept disrespect without consequence, you're teaching her that disrespect is acceptable. And then you wonder why she doesn't respect you. The paradox resolves like this. When you're willing to walk away, you rarely have to. Because the energy of a man who will walk away is the energy of a man who has, not because he's playing the field, but because he's chosen himself. And a man who chooses himself is magnetic in a way that neediness never will be. What if the emptiness you've been feeling, that crushing sense of being forgettable, isn't because you're not enough? What if it's because you've been giving yourself away to people who never asked for the real you? What if the strategy isn't about making her obsessed with you, but about becoming so obsessed with your own growth, your own purpose, your own life that her absence doesn't create a void? Remember what I said at the beginning, the Machiavellian strategy that makes her forget every other man? It's not about her at all. It's about you. It's about building a life so compelling that your presence is a privilege, not a given. It's about mastering yourself so completely that her chaos doesn't destabilize you. It's about choosing your self-respect over her approval every single time. And when you do that, something strange happens. She stops seeing you as an option. She starts seeing you as the exception, the one who got away. The one she can't quite figure out, the one who made her feel something she can't name. Not because you manipulated her, but because you finally stopped manipulating yourself. This is the truth Machiavelli understood about power. The person who needs nothing is the person everyone wants to please. The person who's willing to walk away is the person everyone fights to keep. The person who's free is the person everyone wants to capture. But you can't fake freedom. She'll sense the performance. The only way to embody this is to actually do the work. To actually build a life you don't want to escape from, to actually develop self-respect that isn't contingent on her response. The answer is everything. Everything would change. So how do you actually live this? How do you embody the Machiavellian strategy without becoming someone you're not? It starts with a single recognition. Your self-respect is non-negotiable, not as a concept, as a lived practice. As a line you draw in the sand and refuse to cross, no matter how much you want her to like you. Let me give you the 3 practices of Machiavellian self-mastery, 3 moments where you lose yourself, and how the strategic man handles them differently. Practice 1. The practice of delay texting patterns. She sends you a message. Maybe it's flirty, maybe it's just casual. Your instinct is to reply immediately, to keep the conversation going, to show her you're interested. Don't. And here's what you'll discover. You want to reply immediately. Your fingers itch for it. That's the addiction. That's the wound. You've been using her attention as proof you exist. The practice of delay is not a game. It's genuine. It stems from a life of purpose. Your life genuinely contains more important priorities. You're working on a project. You're at the gym. You're having a real conversation with a friend. You're present in your actual life, not waiting by your phone for validation. When you finally reply, an hour later, 3 hours later, you reply fully, genuinely, but without apology. You don't explain the delay. You don't over-justify. You simply engage, then move on with your life. Do this. Reply fully and genuinely when you do engage. Be present in your actual life. Don't. Reply instantly. Don't explain or over-justify the delay. Don't wait by your phone for validation. What you've communicated, my attention is valuable. When I give it to you, it's real, but it's not unlimited. I have a life that matters to me beyond this conversation. That's scarcity. That's the beginning of value. An unanswered text isn't a missed opportunity. It's a moment where your absence delivers a stronger message than your words ever could. What would change in your texting patterns if you genuinely believed you didn't need to keep her engaged every second? What if silence was power, not loss? Practice 2. The practice of inertia. Handling canceled plans. She cancels. Last minute. Maybe it's a legitimate excuse. Maybe it's vague. Either way, your plans just evaporated. Your instinct might be to explode in anger or to immediately reschedule, proving your time has no value beyond her. The strategic man does neither. He responds calmly, "No problem, enjoy your night." And then, this is critical, he immediately moves forward with his own plans. The key word is momentum. He calls a friend. He goes to that event he was considering. He works on his passion project. He goes to the gym. The point is, his momentum doesn't stop because she pulled back. His life has inertia independent of her. Do this. Move forward with your own plans. Maintain your momentum. Don't immediately reschedule. Don't explode in anger. His world doesn't bend to her whim. He's flexible, yes. Gracious, yes. But his momentum is his own. What she learns from this, canceling doesn't destabilize him. He has a life, and if she wants to be part of it, she needs to respect it. And here's what's wild. Often, within hours, she's texting again, asking what you're up to, suddenly more engaged than before, because you didn't react the way she expected. You didn't chase, you didn't punish, you just moved on. And that calm, that self-possession, it makes her reconsider what she might be losing. How often have you rearranged your entire life to accommodate her inconsistency? What would it feel like to have plans that matter to you, with or without her? Practice 3. The practice of peaceful departure. The silent boundary. She crosses a line. Maybe she's disrespectful. Maybe she's consistently late without apology. Maybe she's playing games, hot one day, cold the next, testing to see how much you'll tolerate. Your instinct is either to explode in anger or swallow it and stay silent, hoping she'll change. Both strategies fail. Anger shows she controls your emotions. Silence shows you have no boundaries. The strategic man does something different. He enacts the practice of peaceful departure. If she's distant, he matches that distance, not to punish, but to protect his energy. He doesn't pour warmth into coldness hoping it will change. He simply steps back and observes. If the disrespect continues, he doesn't argue, he doesn't explain. He doesn't try to convince her of his worth. He simply exits, calmly, without drama, without anger, without long explanations. Do this. Match her distance to protect your energy. Exit peacefully if disrespect continues. Walk away with calm and peace. Don't explode in anger. Don't stay silent hoping she'll change. Don't argue or try to convince her of your worth. He might say something simple. "I don't think this is working for me. I wish you the best." And then he's gone. The greatest strength is the ability to walk away with peace, to signal that your self-respect is non-negotiable, that you'd rather be alone than tolerate being treated as less than you deserve. And here's the paradox. Often, that's the moment she wakes up. That moment when you are willing to lose her is the moment she realizes what she's about to lose. Not always. Sometimes she lets you go. And if that happens, you've saved yourself months or years of being undervalued. But either way, you've won because you've chosen yourself. And that choice is the foundation of every healthy relationship you'll ever have. When was the last time you walked away from someone who didn't value you? What fear keeps you in situations where you're disrespected? What would it feel like to trust that walking away is an act of self-love, not loss? Here's the integration. Stop fighting for her attention. Build a life so compelling she has to fight for yours. You are not trying to make her obsessed. You are becoming so obsessed with your own growth that her chaos doesn't derail you. You are not learning manipulation tactics. You are learning self-mastery. And self-mastery, ironically, is the most attractive thing you can offer. The Machiavellian strategy isn't about controlling her. It's about refusing to let her control you. It's about reclaiming the sovereignty you gave away the moment you decided her validation mattered more than your self-respect. Start today. Not with her. With yourself. Build something that matters to you, a project, a skill, a community. Something that makes you feel alive independent of her response. When she texts, engage genuinely, but don't drop everything. When she pulls back, observe calmly, but don't chase. When she crosses a boundary, exit peacefully, but don't tolerate. And watch what happens. Watch how the energy shifts when you're no longer competing for her attention. Watch how desire grows when you stop feeding it with neediness. Watch how she starts to see you differently when you start to see yourself as enough. This is the strategy that makes her forget every other man. Not because you're perfect, but because you're sovereign. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped playing at all. You've chosen yourself, finally, completely, unapologetically. And that choice, that's what makes you unforgettable. Here's the truth that will set you free. Your realness doesn't depend on her recognition. You are valid. You are real, whether she sees it or not. The terror of never being seen as real, that only exists when you believe her blindness determines your existence. You were always real. You were always valid. She just wasn't looking. And that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of her capacity to see. What are you going to reclaim? What boundary will you finally set? Or will you keep waiting for permission that's never coming? You're not waiting for her anymore. You're building. And the man who builds becomes the man everyone wants to join. That's the Machiavellian strategy. That's the truth. That's your power. The question is whether you'll actually do it. Or whether you'll close this video and go right back to checking your phone, hoping she finally texts back.